Hello. Thank you so much for your time and joining us on the MSME Accelerator today. Very often, very often it is believed that the MSMEs typically tend to operate with a lot of support from chartered accountants, and they tend to go to a long distance before they formally look at having somebody on board and working with them as formally as a CFO. These are a lot more companies which are promoter driven and tend to work on the knowledge or the understanding of that particular promoter more compared to the actual working with the CFO. So there is always a question as to who is the right person for managing these MSMEs and how do they typically work? Do they really need someone? Do they don't really need someone? Should they go for a virtual CFO? They don't need a virtual CFO. Whether they should hire somebody or somebody from family only should manage the business. A lot of questions typically around accounting happen in MSMEs, and a lot of this I have seen personally that people are very sensitive about these topics. While they will discuss everything, but finance is something that the promoter always want to be in control of. And this is when getting a professional becomes a huge challenge in many cases. In this scenario, the MSME at some point in time starts struggling, and that struggle intensifies as it grows further. And in certain cases, I have also observed that the growth actually does not happen because they don't have a professional to guide them on the right path. So today we are going to discuss the same topic with someone who is absolutely privileged to have worked with the largest firms in this country, has worked across various sectors, comes from the industry herself, has done multiple roles, and also has delivered across multiple assignments. It's an absolute privilege for me to introduce Dipali to all of you. Dipali, thank you so much for taking out time and joining us for this conversation.
My pleasure.
So Dipali, first, before we get into the formal questions part of it, I would like to understand more about your journey.
Sure. Hello, everybody, and a very good evening, and wish you in advance a very happy Deepavali, first of all. My journey began with my keen interest in commerce, not just the debit credit of it, but also how this debit credit comes in the place first. So it started with BCom, then I went on to become a CA. I worked with Deloitte for 11 years. And then finally, I decided to move into industry as a CFO. So while we talk about my profile, what a CFO is, I mean, people many a times don't even know the full form of this. When I say I am a CFO, so what is it that you really do, madam? That is what they ask me. So CFO is a Chief Financial Officer. Now, to put it in very simple terms, he is the wazir of any organization. If CEO is the owner, he is the king, he is the wazir of any organization. So all the brainstorming, all the scheming, all the strategizing, behind that there is only one person, and that is the CFO. And why the CFO? Why not the CEO? Let's look at it like that. CEO is mostly a technical person, so he is very adept at business development, getting new technology, getting things on platform. But all this requires a financial perspective. And that is exactly what a CFO brings in. If you analyze all your business decisions from a financial perspective, that is where you are. So that person is called the CFO. So it could be, for some MSMEs, they do have, this skill set or this knack up to a certain point in time. So when I started my journey as a CFO, I realized this very strongly. I worked for large companies, and in that process, while doing greenfield, brownfield projects, I came across a lot of vendors in the manufacturing sector, heavy engineering, chemical, pharma. And while interacting with them, I realized that their businesses have been at a certain plateau. They have been in business. Most of these businesses were family-owned businesses, or maybe, just started. So they have been in business, but they have been on a plateau. Now, why that plateau? Nobody analyzed. So a couple of times in my casual conversations with them, I tried to find out what kind of problems they face. So they typically used to face anything and everything related to money. That is where the idea clicked me that although a full-time CFO does not have handful of work in MSMEs, but the fact cannot be disregarded that they need advice from a CFO. So now the question comes how to deliver this advice, because a CFO salary, say 15, 20 years of experience here, not less than 60 lakhs per year. And even if your MSME is say about 100 to 50 crores, they still will think twice to appoint a CFO. Because that is not mandatory. In India, everything has to be, enforced, sort of pushed down your throat. Until then, people don't realize what they are missing out. So with that thought in mind, I started my own venture after about 18 years of industry experience in 2015, which is Maxentra Consultants Private Limited. We are into providing virtual CFO services. So what we have done is we have changed the module of rendering CFO services. In the sense, instead of appointing somebody who's hiring a CFO at a salary of say 70 lakhs, SME cannot dream to have such a person. But we are giving you that opportunity so that at 1/100th of the cost, you get the same advice, you get the same strategization, and there is somebody holding the horses for you. It's like for every Arjun, there has to be a CFO in the form of Krishna. So we guide your horses in the right way. If I have to put it in a very hard-hitting and straightforward this. So that is what we do.
So there is some interesting issues. I just want to build on this particular thing, Dipali. So what you are saying is pretty true in terms of the overall part. But the questions that are coming in here are saying that do these things really go the same way for MSME as well? Or is the whole concept more towards the large enterprise and less applicable to the small businesses?
See, let us understand, irrespective of the size, what does any business need, or what are the 4 pillars of any business? You take a startup, you take a MSME, you take a large corporate, mid corporate, anything. What is it? There are 4 things which matter the most. People, right kind of processes, right kind of infrastructure for decision making, and last and the most important thing, that is financial management. I think all of you will agree here that 90% of the NPAs that any bank in the country today is recording is primarily because of either hastened financial decisions based on incorrect data, decisions based on lack of knowledge of cash flow. I'll give you a simple example. You get your turnover, you start making more sales. Okay. So you think that just because you're making more sales, you're getting more bottom line. But most of them don't even do a back of the envelope calculation as to actually how much cash profit I am generating. वो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट बताता है आपका प्रॉफिट, वो तो everybody knows where and what it is going. But what is the real money that I have made if I have worked for 1 year? See, each entrepreneur is putting his hard-earned money, not just money, sweat, blood, efforts, thoughts. He's taking so much of stress to just grow his business. Day and night, he's only thinking about that. But what they do not think is whether I'm really making money out of this. So that is why they are always on a plateau. Grow nahi kar rahe ho aap. See, sales growth is not equal to cash growth in your business. आपने समझो 10 लाख रुपया इन्वेस्ट करके बिजनेस शुरू किया है, तो 10 साल बाद कम से कम उसका 1 करोड़ तो होना चाहिए. उतना तो आपका वैल्यूएशन होना चाहिए. अगर नहीं है, then there is definitely it's a time to sit back and introspect. So if you want your business to be one, growing consistently, growing profitably, and making cash profits, so that at no point in time, if you go through a little bit of statistics and study the COVID period, those companies who had people on board like us or financial advisors in the real sense, in the operational sense of finance, they have survived. Not only that, and they have grown consistently, and they continue to grow. They were also at risk in so many places, but still they have scaled through. And the only reason is precise cash flow and financial planning and operational planning based on money. So if you wish that you should not be stressed about, अरे एक ऑर्डर चला गया, मेरा प्रॉफिट चला गया, अगर मैं रिड्यूस कॉस्ट पे नहीं लूंगा तो मेरे को प्रॉफिट नहीं होगा. If you want to clear all of these misconceptions, then you need to have somebody on board who has seen these situations in much better perspective than you have, who can give you what is going to happen in your business 6 months down the line, not tomorrow. Whereas all the MSME owners, you will agree with me that you are all on hand to mouth basis. Kal kya chahiye mujhe? Nobody is thinking about 6 months down the line, if I run like this, what is going to happen with me? And that is where business is going to trouble, which if you do not want, see, it is like a cost versus benefit analysis. Suppose a virtual CFO costs you say 1 lakh rupees a month and you are having a turnover of say 2 crores. Trust me, that 1 lakh rupees, he will change it for you and multiply your profit 10 times, or he will multiply your turnover 10 times, or he will improve your cash flow 10 times. And this is proven in several of our assignments. I am not talking, I can give live examples. You can go and check with any of those people whom I have worked with. So this is a fact which the earlier people accept, the better.
I agree. So
another important thing which I missed out is that Indian MSME, have you just read the numbers or turnover numbers of international MSMEs? Internationally, just let me tell you, 1,000 crores is the turnover and still they are MSMEs. So just imagine where we as Indian MSMEs stand. So if you want to reach that level, we better professionalize ourselves.
Agreed. You answered one question, but there is a follow-up question which has come out of this particular part. And this question is that a lot of times the entrepreneurs themselves tend to take the financial role and then don't want to let it go for a variety of reasons, right? So that building that particular trust becomes an issue. So how do you address that?
I understand. See, you have set up an organization 10 years back, you put everything into it. So you just don't want to go by somebody's advice, even if he may be 20, 25 years experienced. Will be money management. I can guarantee. I mean, I've seen so many cases. So you take one problem at a time, or list out 3 top priority issues that you're facing in your business right now. Go to the person with just one issue. Tell him we want to see how this particular service works for us, and then we want to take a call. In fact, we tell so many of our clients, prospectives, that first get a financial health checkup done. In fact, last week itself, I signed a proposal for a financial health checkup, subsequently followed by CFO services. Now that financial checkup is like showing you the real picture of your business, where you actually stand in terms of money matters. And not just that, whether you will be able to sustain for the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, given your industry, and everything is related to your specific industry, because each industry has its specific risks. And many a times, business owners are not aware of these risks. The risks could be geographical, the risk could be currency related, the risk could be credit related, the risk could be anything. But it is specific to your industry and you're not aware. According to me, if you ask me, forewarned is being forearmed. So if you want to gain out of this service, you should first go with just 1 or maybe 2 problems, depends what is more urgent for you, and get those problems addressed. That will help you to get the kind of faith in the person whom you are seeking help from. And once that is established, see, because CFO, he will not do a superficial study of your problem. If you give him one problem, he is going to spend his entire time analyzing your entire company, its entire operations, how money has moved in the last 6 months, what are your 3 years balance sheets. He's going to analyze each and every aspect by doing this. And he will give you many more insights into your own business than you probably ever imagined. So you can do this. You can take a case to case basis kind of a thing, not go for the whole thing. Get an advice. Like, for example, you have throat problem, you go to an ENT, right?
Yes.
I know a lot of us do self medication. We take cough syrups, we take all sorts of tablets. But 2-3 दिन बाद जब बात करना नहीं आता है तो जाना ही पड़ता है ना. तो पहले भाई उससे पहले ही जाओ आप.
Agree. So Anand, there's a pretty interesting question. He's saying that would it be basically looking at from a regulatory and financial compliance perspective? So how can CFO play a role managing that for MSMEs?
Yes. When a CFO takes charge, he has got certain defined roles apart from being a strategic advisor. One is not just the financial compliance, but the entire industrial, factory-oriented, all compliance. He has to ensure that the necessary people are in place and they are taking care of that compliance. So compliance is being taken care. He also ensures that risks that you have related to your business. There may be some risks which are specific to your business. There may be certain businesses which are generic, which every entrepreneur must understand. Whether there is a mitigation strategy for that. So he is like a shield for you. He is safeguarding you from pitfalls. Third, what he is going to do is he is going to create a reporting mechanism. Just tell me how all of us make decisions in business in MSMEs. मेरे पास एक एक्सेल शीट है, उसके पास एक एक्सेल शीट है, थोड़ा डेटा टैली से आ रहा है, थोड़ा मेरा चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट के पास है. That's how we do, right? But the most important thing to make right business decisions is right data, accurate data, which will tell you where your business is actually moving. हम लोग assume करते हैं मेरा project A में I have 20% margin. है क्या? After the project is completed, tell me one of you who has sat down with your accountant. Accountant is the most neglected person in the company. But trust me, अगर वो नहीं होगा ना, so you will not be able to function. If you give him the right directions to give you the type of data that you need for decision making, trust me, your decisions will change substantially and for good. I
agree. So Rahil had a very specific question. So she wanted to understand from an emerging technology and the changing landscape for MSMEs, right? Because we have seen a lot of dynamism in that bit. How can a CFO help the entrepreneur navigate through this?
Definitely. CFO is very much an integral part of any system implementation that happens. Because as I said, somebody is working, the accountant is working on Tally, your production guy is working on Excel, your stores guy is working on Excel. Who is responsible in the entire company to integrate each of these information that you are getting? So sales का data marketing वाला अलग देगा, finance वाला अलग देगा. क्यों? क्योंकि contract के हिसाब से जो sale है, only that sale will be recognized by the accounts guy. Whereas ये बोलेगा मैंने contract close कर दिया है, तुम्हारा sale हो गया. So who is going to resolve these discrepancies? So to resolve these discrepancies, there are a lot of easy to implement softwares. We also work on reprogramming the existing software. Any software that you buy, irrespective of whether it is SAP or any, the key lies in configuration. So only the right kind of configuration of the ERP software will give you the right kind of information. Second myth about ERP systems and technology coming in is that it is expensive. If you feel it is expensive, I can just tell you that there are systems for small companies, micro companies, which are available at as dirt cheap a price of 3,500 rupees for just 1 year. Now you tell me the cost of implementation. If it is done in a systematic manner, you don't have, see, you'll agree with me that many a times you feel, मैं office नहीं जाऊंगा तो कुछ काम नहीं होता है. लेकिन what if I tell you that आपके मोबाइल फोन पे बैठे बैठे आपको मालूम पड़ जाएगा कि आज जितना परचेस प्रोक्योर करना था, it is done. आज जितना डिस्पैच होना था, it is done. आज जितना कैश कलेक्ट होना चाहिए था कस्टमर से, वो भी it is done. At the click of a button. Systems and processes you cannot substitute by yourself, because finally we are human. All staff that is working with you is human. You can make an error, but a system, if rightly configured, will never make an error.
One very interesting question. What is one key quality that a CFO should have?
CFO's key quality is, apart from finance, of course, he should be a financial wizard. There's no second thoughts on that. But he should be able to see through the operations of any organization. Like, for example, whatever companies I have worked for as a CFO, I have spent very less time in the corporate office. You will be surprised to hear this. But I know the production process of each and every organization that I have worked for as a CFO or as a virtual CFO, irrespective. Unless he gets into the nitty-gritty of that and he's able to grasp those nitty-gritties, he will not be able to give you a solution for operations. He will give you a financial solution, all right. And for that, you really need that kind of interest, that kind of an exposure, and an eye for that operational detail. Like if I go to a factory, I will ask very precise questions to the quality guy, to the stores guy, to the production guy. And that's it. I don't need anything. I don't need to see balance sheets. I don't need to see financial statements. I don't need to see charts, diagrams, nothing. Those 10 questions is all that I need. And I'll tell you what is happening.
Agreed. So just building on this particular part, getting that particular assessment and working, there is also a question as at what point in time a company should look for external help or a CFO in this case.
Let us break down this question. Rather than saying when should we appoint a CFO, we should look at when should we seek help. Because the function of a CFO, if you look at it in a broader perspective, yes, you need to have certain level of turnover where you can bring in a virtual CFO. But appointing somebody not exactly as a CFO, but as your hand-holding advisor is important right from day one. For the simple reason, if the constitution of the business is done right, your business will always grow right. And these are available, like even we give, apart from CFO services, what we do is we break down the CFO services into business mentoring and startup mentoring. So business mentoring can be opted by those people who are not really scaled up that much, say like of a certain scale you are, but you want support because you are stuck somewhere. You can always take help of business mentor, or you can take help of a startup mentor if you are a really new organization. But taking financial advice, either you become financially fully literate, which also we do. We train the CEOs to become, or the owners to become financially literate. Financially literate matlab kya? You don't have to know accounting. महीने में एक बार आपके अकाउंटेंट को पूछो, मेरे को सही प्रॉफिट जो है ना सीए को भेजने के पहले मेरे को पूछो. I want to see, and I will tell you just 4 or 5 things that you need to see in this. You will be at peace. You will be at peace that my business is going in the right direction. So either you become skilled financially yourself, which will take time. It's not going to happen in a day. So you onboard somebody who will be like your, Sarathi, as I mentioned earlier. He will help you, handhold you at every stage. And trust me, the cost of doing that is not at all, is negligible. For the benefit that you will get, it's negligible. So look at these options which are available at a much lower rate, at a much cheaper rate as compared to an actual CFO service.
Sure. Yusuf had a very important question. He said that what is it that we should ask someone if we want to hire them as CFO?
First, check whether he has sufficient experience working as an actual CFO. Here, I would like to mention something which I have been wanting to mention on a public platform, because this is an awareness thing. See, with all due regards to my professional brethren, I am a chartered accountant. I fully respect my professional brethren. But there has been a misconception that CFO service is equal to accounting, sophisticated accounting service. And that is what a lot of practicing CAs are promoting to their clients, which is misleading for people. It is not. These people who are practicing, you have to understand the role of your chartered accountant who signs your balance sheet and a CFO. These are two different people, these are two different roles, so they have to be distinguished. Your CFO is somebody who is needed to do strategization, financial planning, support on every count of operation in terms of money. Whereas your CA is only required to ensure they are complying with all the standards. Income tax से comply कर रहे हो, ICAI के standard से comply कर रहे हो, Companies Act से comply कर रहे हो. उसके अलावा आपके बिजनेस में क्या होना चाहिए और वो क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, कैसे हो सकता है, इसका एनालिसिस वो आपको नहीं बता पाएगा for the simple reason he is not sat on the other side of the table. He has always worked as an auditor. I worked as an auditor for 11 years. And when I came into industry, I realized how much as an auditor I missed seeing. Because here you actually get into the nitty-gritties. So your CA is not the solution for you. He is only a statutory auditor. Please segregate these functions. आपका अकाउंटेंट और आपका सीए, वो तो सीए तो अकाउंट्स देखता है, नहीं, आपके अकाउंटेंट को जितना पता है ना, आपके सीए को नहीं पता है, ट्रस्ट मी, बिकॉज ही इज एट द ग्रासरूट लेवल. ही नोज ईच ट्रांजैक्शन का एंट्री कहाँ जा रहा है, क्यों जा रहा है, कैसे जा रहा है, कैश आपकी टाइप हो रही है, नहीं हो रही है. दैट इज व्हाट इट इज.
Dipali, can you elaborate a couple of examples? I think a lot of people are very keen to see how things have happened in practice.
Abhi, we were talking about MSMEs all along. This whole conversation was driven on MSMEs. Generally, MSMEs think कि corporates जो होते हैं, everything goes on so smoothly. Nothing, there's no problem. They don't have financial worries. They don't have anything. I will not name those companies, please pardon me, but I'll give you very typical case studies, and I think you'll be able to relate, all of you. I took up my first virtual CFO assignment. Now, this is a multinational company, trust me. So cash rich, money is not an issue at all. They had just started building up a factory in SEZ. And money was coming in from the parent company. Everything was going fine. After I joined, the factory had started 2 years back before I took over this assignment. So they were in the process, about 30-40 CR was pumped already into the plant. They had another division, which is an engineering division, for which they export services. Now, I don't know how many of you know, every 5 years, the foreign trade policy changes. I don't know how many of you are aware. The last change happened from 2015 to 2020 policy. That was the 5-year policy. The new policy still has not been completely published. They are giving in bits and pieces. Now, in this 15 to 20 policy, a major change was given by the Modi government, which was different from all other previous policies. And that was that if you have exports, you can claim not rebate. Many a times people tell me ki, we claim rebate. MEIS and SEIS, which is Merchandise Export Incentive Scheme and Service Export Incentive Scheme. So these people had not claimed service export incentives to the tune of 1.25 CR. Okay. Now the question comes, they were paying me, I mentioned this before also, that cost benefit is very important. So when they hired me, they haggled with me on 1 lakh rupees of fee per month. I said, fine, I am not going to haggle on that. In the next 3 months, this thing changed the whole game for me. Because this is a benefit which they had got consistently, means every year they could claim this much, because that is the kind of turnover they were making on export services. And I helped them improve from 5% to 6% to 7% of the net foreign earnings. They did not have any expenses in foreign exchange. So on a 30 crore of engineering export service revenue, now you only calculate what is the benefit they got by appointing the right person in the right place. So why do corporates succeed? The reason is you have to have the right kind of people with you. Otherwise, you will only firefight. There is nothing that you can do. Another example. This was a smaller company. I gave you an example of a large multinational. Another. This is a company which manufactures control panels for the pumps. Okay. Now they had beautifully implemented Tally. All modules of Tally were implemented. They were so sure. When I went for discussion with them, they said, "Madam, our data is, nothing will go wrong in the data." Okay, and they were having the data. I will not say no, but again, that whole data was non-integrated. तो उनको यही पता नहीं था कि इन्वेंट्री में एक्चुअली कितना पड़ा है माल और मुझे कितना ऑर्डर कर रहा है. Based on the purchase guy's estimation, they went on ordering with building up an inventory of 5 CR, out of which 2.5 CR was not required at that point. Of course, it's not a waste. I'm not saying that. But then you are investing 2.5. Just calculate the monthly interest on that. You are going to need it after 6 months. So these are things which are applicable to any company. आप अपना planning कैसे करते हो? Third most important this. There was a guy who was working in oil and gas industry. Now in oil and gas industry, what happens? Projects lead time is very big. It is 10 months, 12 months. Okay. So you have to be very careful about your working capital. Even if you have bank limits, even if you have any. Now this guy was doing a turnover of 100 CR. So what was happening is he had limits of about 60 CR from the bank. फिर भी उसके हाथ में पैसा नहीं होता था. जीएसटी भरने के लिए पैसा नहीं है, सैलरीज टाइम पे देने के लिए पैसा नहीं है. I said there's something amiss. You need 50% of your turnover as your working capital. That is the benchmark for them, for that kind of an industry. So we rerouted their entire, like they used to get advances from customers before the order starts commissioning. So we planned it in such a manner that every project had a positive cash flow. And it is nothing. We are not generating any magical information. We are using their systems. We are using their people. We are using their mechanisms only. All we are doing is वो contract उठा के we just went through that. That's all. So these three things I think will hit you very hard because one of them definitely has to be happened somewhere.
Okay. In case of, there is one very important question Shantanu has here. Particularly is talking about what are the key responsibilities of a particular CFO from a SMB perspective. I think the question primarily comes here, Dipali, from the fact that the promoter himself in certain cases can be an absolute technocrat but may not really be coming from the financial background, or the company itself may not have the structure, right? So in that case, how the CFO can complement the business?
Let's take an example of many of the technocrats, what issues they face. First is managing money, working capital management. Another big mistake which MSMEs make, technocrats especially make, is they borrow money as a term loan from the bank and they use it in working capital. Or they take working capital sanction and they use it for buying a machinery. Now this is disastrous, trust me. This is disastrous. The first and the most important thing is capital allocation. That is what a CFO needs to look at when he is working with MSMEs. Whether they are using the right kind of capital for the right kind of purpose. And whether capital flow is consistent, stable, and what needs to be done to make it more stable. Second thing is managing the risks. For example, many companies are dependent for sales only on 1, 2, or 3 customers. अब सोचिए वो साल में जो आपके कस्टमर है उनका कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो गया, some problem. See, every business faces issues now and then. And उसने आपको ऑर्डर नहीं दिया, तो what is your backup plan? You are estimating, you are giving the bank a projection, नहीं मेरा ये customer से. So over dependence on customers is a very, very difficult thing that people face. Third thing, there are a lot of companies which deal with large corporates. You should know that as an MSME, your money should be paid within 45 days of you supplying service or goods. If it is not done, if you have followed the terms of the contract, but still you don't get your money, there are a lot of settlement mechanisms which are available, which 99% of the MSMEs don't know. There's something called an MSME Samadhan, where you within 15 days, the notice go from the MSME ministry to that guy, and that guy will start acting. थर्ड इज द क्वालिटी ऑफ अर्निंग. लाइक आप बहुत मेहनत कर रहे हो, बहुत सेल बना रहे हो, लेकिन इतना सारा सेल बना के भी 1% प्रॉफिट. What is the quality of your earning? That is very, very important. You are making money. I am not saying you are not making money, but if your profitability margin is so low, is so thin, then even the slightest change in either your cost structure or revenue structure, you're finished. That very month onwards, you will start showing losses. So we don't want that. That is another key aspect of the cash, cash, cash. I tell all the technocrats, Marwadi, Gujarati, Sindhi, all these communities, if you see very minutely, why they have been able to build successful businesses is, आप मेरे को बताओ, I mean, let's take an example of 20 years back when we were children. बनिए की दुकान पे जो बनिया बैठता था, कौन सी कक्षा पास करता था? तीसरी, चौथी, पांचवी, right? But he very well knew what are the products in my shop, what is the cash profit I have made for this day. उसका एजुकेशन नहीं होगा, he may not be a technocrat, but money wise you cannot challenge him. Any ERP system you cannot challenge a मारवाड़ी. उसके जैसा कॉस्टिंग कोई नहीं कर सकता है, उसको एग्जैक्टली मालूम होता है, एंड इट्स हियर एंड इट्स ऑन हिज फिंगरटिप्स. दैट इज हाउ फाइनेंशियली लिटरेट either you have to be, or you have to find somebody on your side who will do that financial literacy part.
True.
These are the four things which are very, very important.
Yes. Siddharth is asking a pretty nice question. He said that in the dynamic business situation that we are facing at present, how can a CFO adapt to the individual challenges faced by a specific business?
I think I will repeat what I said earlier. When a CFO comes into your company, whether he's coming for a virtual CFO position or whether he's coming for a permanent position, the first and foremost thing that he does is he goes through your entire operations. He first tries to imbibe how this company is working right now. Then he benchmarks those processes to a more qualified standard process which should have been there. Then he identifies the gaps, and then he tells you prioritizes. See, what he is doing, you want to climb a ladder, right, of business, correct? But are you ensuring that that ladder is against the right wall? आप किसी गलत wall पे चढ़ के कहीं और ही चले जाओगे. So that is where he is going to help you to place your ladder on the right wall. So he's ensuring the surrounding is right. He's ensuring the technology environment is right. He's ensuring the financial environment is right. He's also ensuring that your mindset is right to grow the business. And यथा राजा तथा प्रजा, तो आपका mindset सही होगा तो आपके organization का mindset सही होगा.
Agree. Dipali, this is one of the observations that I've seen across whenever I interact with entrepreneurs, particularly the mid-sized companies, and when you go and talk to them about people like you, I'll be blunt here, coming in from the backgrounds of Deloitte, right? So there's people who come in, right? Typically, a lot of times they believe that these people always have that big picture attitude, whereas the things that I'm doing are very, very practical. So there is always this conflict, right? He's a hands-on guy, and the CFO will all of a sudden come and talk about the big picture. Somewhere that whole thing doesn't gel.
I will very proudly tell you, my clients include turnovers, companies having turnovers of 20-25 lakhs a year. Okay. My clients include companies having 250 CR turnover a year. So it is all about what that person, how that person perceives your business, how is he putting his skill sets, applying. See, we learn maths 2 plus 2, we learn everywhere. But how you apply that 2 plus 2 is what matters in the CFO's work. सबको knowledge बहुत है, सब CFOs को knowledge है, but how you use it to the benefit of that company depends on how well you study the business. One, how well you study the industry. Because if I work for a manufacturing company, say for a food industry I'm working, say some canning processing business is there. So I will study everything that is related to that business, not just that business. Because finally I have to see that company growing from X to 10X, right? So if that is to be done, a holistic approach is needed, which only a CFO can bring in. So he has to think in that direction. If he starts looking only at the balance sheet, फिर नहीं होगा. फिर then he is only a chartered accountant. He is not a CFO. There is a big difference. Every chartered accountant is not a CFO, but every CFO is a chartered accountant by default.
Very well put. Now, this also brings a very different. I just build on the same thing. Okay, I see particularly when any entrepreneur starts and he has a particular idea, a product, right? He builds it as if it's her or his own child, right? That's how they build it up over a period of time, and then offering that control to somebody else, third party, becomes a issue, right? So when you work, particularly in this also, this you would see this particular thing lot more dominant when there is a second generation coming in. Okay, we know some people who have been even at the age of 74 are not letting 45-year-old kid also taking over the business. But in this kind of situation, when you say, right, bringing in that particular part, how do you see creating that comfort? What do you think is how you can actually go and create that comfort for somebody to take that call? That it is not about letting go. It is just about letting go of only certain part of it, which is actually going to have a multiplying effect on the overall financial health of the organization. So how do you manage this?
First and foremost, you have to hit very hard on the concept that control means physical presence. Control does not mean physical presence. Today I am sitting across and talking to you guys. My business is running fantastically fine. And if you want to run it with that kind of a control, means you want to have control, but you don't want to be physically present there. Like a guy who's 70, 75 years old is not in a physical position to address the needs of that business. He has to address it virtually. I have had people have run business for 25 years. Okay, and they wanted their second generation to come in, but he should do like this. He should not do like this. You have to create a blend. You cannot disregard the old. It's like a sage. You can't disregard his experience and exposure, whatever professional qualification anybody may have. But he knows the nuts and bolts of his business, so you cannot disregard that. So a CFO or a person like me has to bring in a blend and do the change management to tell the older guy that just because you are appointing this person means you're not handing over your business to him. You are only seeking his help to grow your business in a more sustainable manner. Now, whether you want that or you want to tumble upon few stones and then only succeed, that's a choice that you have to make. But once that is done, people really, and always the first 2 or max 3 months are challenging for us as a CFO. Once the owner starts seeing the changes that are happening and the consistent benefits that are accruing to his business, he has no questions. Madam, aap jo bolo karenge. So to come to that, you need to give that kind of time. It's like you have to nurture that relationship with your CEO. To bring in that trust, to bring in that confidence that yes, he will, even if I am not there for any reason, this person will take the company in the right path. Wo trust build karna padta hai. It doesn't come like that. For some, it comes very quickly. For some, it comes definitely. That I can assure you. It comes definitely. And it max comes in 4 to 5 months. Max. I mean, if you interact with them in the right perspective, bring in the right insights and show them, demonstrate them कि भाई आप 4 दिन ऑफिस नहीं आओगे सर, आप मेरे को एक चांस दे दो खाली, बस 4 दिन आप ऑफिस नहीं आओगे, आपको जो इन्फॉर्मेशन चाहिए आप मुझे बोलो. We have actually done these things because people are used to, अरे भाई वो शीट लेके आओ, अरे भाई ये फाइल लेके आओ, मुझे इसका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट देखना है, मुझे इसका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट देखना है. So what we do is we create a dashboard. I'm sure you've heard this word. But a daily dashboard is something which puts that fellow will sit in his armchair and will say, "Ha, chalo, abhi theek hai. Next day, let's look at the next day." We have to bring it to that level. So that is where the effort from our end comes.
Agreed. I would like to conclude this conversation with a very amazing question by Kavya. She wants to understand how does a role of a CFO evolve, right, as the company grows?
The role of a CFO is priceless, and the reward that you are seeking from a CFO, I'll tell you in how many multiples you will get. One, you will see reduced cost. One, you will see better cash profits. You will see growth in sales without compromising on price. Growth in sales. अभी sales वाला तो discount देने बैठा है ना, देने दो उसको. हमेशा का झगड़ा है मार्केटिंग एंड सेल्स वालों का कि आप इतना लॉस पे ऑर्डर लेके आ रहे हो. तो उसमें परसेप्शन चेंज की जरूरत होती है. ना सेल्स वाला गलत है, ना अकाउंट्स वाला गलत है. How you look at costs will change completely. And the fourth thing, if you want to create a financially intelligent and sustainable organization, only a CFO can do that.
I agree. Dipali, this I think Kavya would also like to understand. You said that at the startup you need to engage, right? So if I take a part that somebody is starting a business, then say about a year one, year two, and then they grow and say they attain certain level of maturity, say in year 4, year 5 kind of thing, right? And then the real acceleration begins. So how do you see CFO contributing across all these years?
I have been part of a lot of greenfield projects. I mean, it's not a startup, but it's a greenfield project. So it's like starting from buying a land. So where to buy a land? अभी आप बोलोगे जहां मुझे सस्ता मिलेगा मैं खरीद लूंगा. नहीं बाबा. We have gone to 3 different states, seen lands and evaluated. Now as a CFO, I had given them some 20 parameters that you pick up any land and benchmark it against these 20 parameters. And then prepare a comparative matrix to say that which land is the most suitable. Cost cannot be the only consideration. We have gone as deep as checking out whether that particular area has labor issues. You know, Gujarat, just for your information sake, Gujarat, from the month of October when Navratri starts till Diwali gets over, there is a severe crunch of labor there because these people come from the north of India and they just go back. They just go back. So these are aspects which you as an individual cannot foresee, whereas we based on our experience can foresee. So which is why we are able to give you a proper holistic approach. We will tell you the pros also, we will tell you the cons also, and we will tell you what our recommendation is also. But from all perspectives, not just because you feel, अरे मेरे भाई का land है वो मैं खरीद लेता हूँ, बहुत अच्छा land है. Do you know soil testing is done before buying a land for any project? You will wonder why this lady is talking about soil testing and all. It's highly technical, but we have to get involved in it. Only then we can tell you the exact this. So when it's a new company, first is constitution of the business. I mean, most of the startups, they either start a proprietary or they start an LLP. But why a proprietary? Why an LLP? Or why a private limited company? Have you ever thought of these things? What is it that how a private limited impacts your business? How a LLP impacts your business? What futuristically is good for you? That needs to be strategized. So the day you decide, including your business idea, you should get your business idea also vetted that whether this is feasible business or this is a not feasible business. It starts from that earlier stage. And of course, along the way, getting your operations streamlined, getting your policies, procedures streamlined, getting you to have control without having control. So startup, that poor fellow, I can't imagine. He's running like a head-cut chicken everywhere. Everything he wants to do, Baba. But whether you will be left with the energy to do what is most needed for your business, and that is business development, just think about that.
Agree. So this is at the very beginning of the business. We also discussed about the growth. I also want to now conclude this at the one which is something that we all have been looking at, or we want that change to happen, is about the IPOs.
Right.
So how do you see the Indian business going for IPOs?
If you have seen the statistics of IPOs, SME IPOs, I'm talking, because main board IPOs are difficult to get. SME IPOs, as of today, if you check the statistics, in the last 3 years, the growth has been compounded 30% of IPOs listing on the SME boards.
Yes.
And trust me, in spite of the restriction that you have to invest a minimum of 1 lakh, the SME bourse has given better returns than the main bourse.
Yeah.
If you want to really go for an IPO, first and foremost thing is whether you have camouflaged your profit or not. Please look into that. Because तब तो टैक्स बचा लिया आपने, लेकिन आप अभी तो मुंडी कटेगी, अभी कुछ नहीं हो सकता. You can't restate those numbers. Trust me. एक बार आप डॉटेड लाइन पे साइन कर देते हो तो मैं उसको कुछ नहीं कर सकती. So what we suggest to people who are interested in an IPO or who have reached at a certain level is that you have to give yourself 2 years time to mature to that level of IPO. In the market, you will find a lot of people who will tell you, हम लोग आपको will take you 6 months to IPO. लेके भी जाते हैं, I am not disputing that. But लेके जाने के बाद क्या होता है, that is the issue.
True.
If you want your brand image to grow consistently on the IPO market, I mean on the boards, SME boards, then you need to plan yourself. I have a client currently, we are looking at an IPO of 2026. We missed it by 2 years because COVID came in. I mean, the whole business was, sales got affected because it was something related to construction materials. Construction activity completely stopped. That's the industry that we are carrying. That's what I was talking about. So you need to plan in advance so that your balance sheets are prepared correctly. Please do not accept the balance sheet that your chartered accountant gives you just the way it is. If you don't want to hire anybody as a CFO, at least get your balance sheet analyzed whether it is worthwhile taking it forward in the way it is or it needs changes. And this won't cost you much money because this is a one-time exercise. But it will help you to change your accounting mechanism so that right things are reflected in the right bucket. Because आप जब IPO में जाते हो ना, it's not just about your profitability. What the investor perceives about your company, your business, your style of operation, your style of management. And that all that he has only the balance sheet to look at. Interactions तो होंगे, but that's at a later stage. पहले तो balance sheet सही नहीं रहेगा तो उधर ही गया. They will just reject outright merchant bankers.
Sure.
Anybody and everybody who is interested in an IPO, first get your accounts properly drawn. Not from just saving tax, evading tax. I'm very candid about this, but this is a matter of fact.
Sure. Totally agree. So, Dipali, thank you so much for walking us through the complete journey, right from the incorporation of our organization till the value realization. I hope that this conversation made a lot of sense to you. If anybody has got any questions, please feel free to put them into the question and answer session, and I'm absolutely sure that Dipali would answer them going forward.
More than happy to do that.
Sure. Thank you so much, everyone. I look forward to more interactions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Thinkly.